Amanda.
And I'm Mel.
And this is the Road Back Home podcast. Hey, Mel.
Well, hello. And take two. You start.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Amanda. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
Well, I think this is our first podcast that we have actually recorded video of. So we are not alone today in our podcast. And we are very excited to welcome our baby brother, who's not a baby anymore, who just turned 40, actually.
Turned 40.
We're welcoming our brother, Brendan Patrick Grace, onto the podcast. Bren, you're so welcome.
Hey, sisters.
Hey, Bren. I'm so happy that you're here. I was dying to have you on. We both were dying to have you on. How do you feel about being here?
This is very cool. We're all in here together.
It is.
Doing this.
And you know, I was thinking as we were inviting Bren in that we also have our other brother here, just, you know, in an omnipresent way, because it is his music that is our intro and outro. So really, the four of us are here together. So I love that.
Nice.
It's a family affair.
Joined forces.
So also, Bren, a reminder that I'm sorry to interrupt, Amanda, but you know, that's my style. A reminder that this is a video. So, you know, keep the nose picking and the arse scratching for later.
All right. Noted.
Oh, gosh. So, Bren, as you know, the name of our podcast is The Road Back Home. And it's...
Which I love. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a title from a poem that I wrote in the middle of my own journey and, you know, during the dark night of the soul about, you know, finding my way back home. But what I really wanted to do since we, you know, started to really have you on to talk about your journey on the road back home, because you have traveled the road back home in a very literal way.
Quite literally, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've traveled the road back home, living in a Subaru Outback for 3 years. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was a life-changing experience, and I'm happy to talk about it and share it.
Well, that's exactly what we want to do. And we can see as you're sitting here that you are sitting in your home that you have, you know, made your way to. So do you want to tell us, maybe work us back to what was going on? When did it start? Like what was going on for you that you decided to move into your car?
So pretty much I was struggling. I was struggling in every way you can think of. I was struggling physically, emotionally, financially. And it was basically just a buildup of poor life choices over the past 20 years or so, like 20 years or more of, you know, unhealthy relationships, unhealthy relationship with money, became a binge drinking addict. And pretty much I found myself just broken, and I had this problem. And I remember, you know, I was on YouTube and I was looking at people who were trying to pay off debt and turn their life around. And I came across like a few van lifers and a few people who chose to like move into their cars to do so. But the place I was living in at the time, you know, it was kind of like a house out in the woods. I was kind of desolate out there, and I was struggling with my drinking on and off. I had been trying to maintain sobriety for a number of years, and I just kept hitting these relapses, and they were really dark, and I kept going down. So I made an extreme decision to end my lease and move into my Subaru Outback. You know, I saw people online and how they set it up, and you know, I opened the trunk and I just stood there looking at it. What can I put here? What can I put there? I had this vision of creating this little camper, and I put it into practice. You know, I started kind of just doing some car camping here or there, and when the lease was up, I packed my car. I brought stuff down to your house, Mel, for storage, and I didn't have a whole lot of things. I got rid of everything. I became a minimalist through the process, you know, and I moved into my Subaru Outback with the hopes of getting ahead in life financially and getting a new perspective on life. And challenges were ahead that I wasn't even ready for, but I went through them all. and I ended up living in my car for 3 years, you know,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
it
And
was a wild
you
journey.
know, I would love to talk about a little bit, Amanda, as well, about the day Bren brought this to us.
Mm,
If you're okay talking with that, Bren, and Amanda, if
yeah,
you're okay, you know,
absolutely.
sharing, we'll all share at our own comfort levels, you know. Um, I remember Bren had brought us together as a family. Was it a Zoom meeting, Bren, or
No,
did you was it
see,
individual? I forget how it was done.
I knew that this was an extreme decision, and I knew that I would get some pushback, right?
Mhm.
And that was one of my biggest hurdles. Like I said to
Mhm.
myself, you know, telling my family is going to be the hardest part of this journey, at least initially, and it was. But I
Mhm.
sent you guys an email, right?
That's right.
I sent an email to you and to Brad and to Mom and Amanda. And I was saying to Amanda yesterday, I'm actually glad Dad wasn't alive for that, because who knows how he would have taken it, right? But
Mm.
I told you and Brad,
He
and
probably would have moved into your car with you, Bren. There's
I
the
mean, look,
likelihood.
Dad was a van lifer back in his gigging days. You know what I mean? I remember camping in that van and him cooking beans and doing all that in the van, and we had the VHS in there and everything. So
Very true.
he was no
Yeah.
stranger to it. Maybe he would have, you know, had some tips for me, or he would have gotten behind it. Who knows, right?
Mm.
But there was going to be pushback, and I knew it. So I sent an email, right? And there was
Mhm.
only 3 people who I told face to face. That was my son, Mom, and actually it was just them two. Those are the only people I told face to face. And I spoke to my son's mom on the phone, right? But I sent that email because I thought it would be at least I wouldn't have to, you know, sit in person and hear the feedback. I would give you guys the platform to speak, which you did, and you guys
And time to process. I think you also gave us time to process too,
exactly.
which
Yeah,
yeah, it
that
was
was yeah.
yeah. I remember my initial reaction was
So
one
do
of fear. Yeah, I was scared. I wasn't sure at the time that, you know, you were making a rational decision. And as your sibling who lives closest to you, you know, over here in the United States, it was really difficult for me knowing that I had a space for you to
Mhm.
stay in under
Yeah.
a roof. It was so hard. However, at the time, I didn't get the point. And
Mhm.
I'm excited to share, you know, how how I feel now, having looked back on your journey. And the shift for me has literally gone from one of, you know, this is a crazy idea. I'm really worried for him. I'm concerned from so many different perspectives. And that has shifted to one of just awe to
Mhm.
see what you have done and to see what you have built and to see where you are now. I really wouldn't have ever guessed that
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has been an incredible journey to watch and to witness. And for the fact that we were able to do this
Mhm.
civilly as a family, I think
Yeah.
speaks volumes to who we are family too.
Of course. And
How
like
about you, Amanda?
Go on, Brian. What were you going to say there?
no, I was just going to say, like, in the beginning, I didn't know what I was doing either, right? I wasn't sure that it was rational myself, but I was going to do it anyway,
Yeah.
you know, and I knew
Yes.
that I had to tell you guys, allow you guys to have a reaction, allow you to have a response. And then, you know, the ball would be back in my court, in which case I would hear you out and then say, hey, it's going to happen anyway,
Yeah.
you know?
I'm I'm remembering, you know, when I got that email,
Mm,
I think my very first reaction was panic.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reason being was the same, kind of the same as you, Mel, because I knew that you weren't in a great place. I knew
Yeah.
that you were struggling. I knew that it was that you were desperate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And had you have been, you know, had the circumstance been different and you were like, oh, I'm going to move in my car and become a nomad and I'm going to explore this, I'd have been like, great, how
Right. Yeah.
empowering,
It
you
wasn't
know?
for it wasn't for exploration. It wasn't for, you know, fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was, as you say, an extreme measure. And I can relate to that. And probably some of my reaction as well was projection from my own experience of desperation and the death throes of trying extreme solutions and them not working. Or, as you say, I can so relate to you saying, you chose a solution that you had no idea the challenge it was going to present to you. And that email, when it came in, you were like, this is going to be a year-long project, and just give me the year and we'll do it. And like that, we think that we're in charge of the timing. And I also know from my own journey that our timing is not how recovery happens.
Yeah.
It has a rhythm and a pace of its own, and it has a kind of a mind of its own, and it's going to have its way with you. And it is a Pandora's box. And I've kind of done that myself, in that, like, I chose a solution, not realizing what I was letting myself in for. And next thing you know, you're in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've kind of taken the alternative off the table. Going back is not an option.
Yeah.
And so you do end up in that kind of like dark night of the soul, Harry Potter up against all the dark figures. Essentially a fight for your life. I know that my decision to stop drinking was not a virtuous decision. It wasn't something I was doing because, it wasn't something that I was doing for my own benefit. It was something I was doing to save my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
It wasn't a social thing, right? It was a life thing.
It was.
And it's interesting that, and we've talked about this a little bit on previous podcasts or episodes, Amanda, that for you and Bren, quitting drinking was a safety concern. It was for your safety and for the safety of others.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the beginning, I was desperate. I was desperate. I had loans that I had to pay off, or I was going to go under. I mean, like, because I was going to face homelessness by force, because I was running out of money rapidly. You know what I mean? I had stacked up so much debt with just irresponsible choices and binge drinking and becoming an addict and everything. And I was unprepared coming into this situation. There's a lot that I had to learn the hard way. And I did, because when you move into your car in New England on, December 28th, right before the worst of winter comes, you're going to run into some challenges. I had some things that I did to prepare, like having certain supplies, 0 degree mummy bag, layering, things that I would use, but I was underprepared in the beginning because I didn't have them all immediately, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're talking below freezing temperatures in the first week, in the first 2 weeks or so, and I couldn't sleep at all because I didn't have the equipment. So I had to learn that the hard way. There's a lot that I learned on the road, like in it, through the experience of it. But I did, and it took a lot longer than a year, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Those cold nights, Bren, where it was below freezing. And again, I was in my bed in my warm home with an empty guest room, were so difficult. And of course, my brain kept going to, what if he freezes to death? What if he dies from carbon monoxide poisoning? What if? But what was incredible was you were always great at checking in. You were great at giving the updates. And there were some nights when you did take the offer to stay here. And you would come in and I would literally turn into Mammy. And now there's a bowl of coddle for you, and I have a hot water bottle in your bed. I want to give you all of the, so that when you did get back to your car life, that, you at least had a little bit of comfort and nurturing, to get back there. But tell us about like one of the hardest nights you ever endured in your car.
I mean, some of them are really difficult to speak about because they involve relapse. They involve binge drinking while living in a car. And to be honest with you, some of those moments in the night, I can't even remember. I just remember waking up the following morning in a car after having gone through that. But if I was to just talk about temperature wise, I'd say that the most difficult was probably 5 days into it, you know, and we were going through an Arctic freeze in early January. And I remember filming myself in the car the following morning, and I was doubting myself completely. I had no idea what I had just done. What did I just do? I moved out of my place. I'm on wheels. And I also kept a lot of it to myself. There's a lot that I didn't share with all of you. You all have your own personal lives going on. And I knew that I had to figure this thing out. And I did. I stayed the course with it, and I figured things out, and I started doing more research, right? And the more research I done and the more supplies that I got on board, the more I started to learn that I could do this. And then when I tackled like the cold temperatures, and like I got my 0 degree mummy bag, I woke up the next morning feeling confident and hopeful that I could do it. Then I started to get the hang of it, you know, and I realized that, you know, not only can I survive, but I can thrive with this lifestyle if I, you know, use the right equipment and take the necessary precautions like carbon monoxide poisoning. You know, I researched all of that before you guys could even worry about it, right? So I just got through it. But I mean, hardest nights were definitely the nights when I had fallen back into the cycle of relapse and I was still in my car. That was incredibly risky and dangerous, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Something that I think is that was interesting for me as you know, as part of this, and I think that other people can relate to, because you know, families are interesting things, and every family has dynamics, and then Irish families as well. We have, you know, there's a special kind of thing where, you know, there's, well, we just have Irish people in general have dynamics in terms of like what is talked about and what is not talked about, and what will people think and things like that. And of course, we
Hmm.
have a famous dad, and what will people think? You know, here's Brendan Grace's son living in his car, or Brendan Grace's daughter, you know,
Hmm.
just like struggling like this,
Yeah.
and also even beyond, you don't have to have a famous dad, but like just the idea of status and how it reflects on the rest. And that was very interesting to me, because it was amazing to me to see how personally I could take things that were honestly none of my business. Not that they didn't impact me, and not that I wasn't going to have concerns or fears, but at the same time, making, you know, a sibling's decisions somehow about me, or making it somehow about the family. And then
Yes.
also how I recognized along the way that all of my unexamined stuff that was coming up in the process, my addictions, that, by the way,
Mm.
I might have put down the bottle almost 8 years ago, but you can be damn sure that I did not get rid of my patterns yet. The
Okay.
patterns that are underneath them, because we can be addicted to substances and behaviors, and
Yeah.
the rescuing and the fixing and the needing to be the big sister with the answers, and the needing to be the one who brought the stubborn horse, you know, because you're like, oh no, this is my way. This is
Yeah.
going to be my solution.
Mhm.
Totally stubborn, guilty.
And me too, because I'm stubborn in that, like, but I have experience, you know, and I know that I tried to project it onto you. And at one point you said to me, Amanda, please just be my sister. Stop trying to be
Mm.
my coach. Stop trying to
Wow.
be my therapist.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And I remember, you know, I had gotten to a place at that point where I was, you know, of course, you know, all the stuff that comes up with me. You know that funny meme that goes around where it's like, where people are like, uh, it's something about being an asshole. You weren't asking for advice, but I was
Oh
giving you
yeah.
advice.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
know
yeah.
that asshole
I'm
where people
familiar
are,
with those guys.
yeah, people who ask for advice, you give it and then they don't take it. They just do what they're going to do anyway. But you were not asking for advice, and yet I was giving you advice
Sure.
because
Yep.
I was so uncomfortable with your choice.
Well,
And I was
Yes.
so uncomfortable with your journey and your suffering and my worry, which feels productive.
mhm.
But really, that is my way of avoiding my own discomforts.
Yeah.
And I learned also at one point, because at one point your car broke down, Brendan.
Yep. Yeah. That
And
that was actually going back to Mel's question. What was the darkest? That was probably one of the darkest right there, because I had two cars throughout this process, and I was moving into my car to pay off a car loan, right, and to get out from underneath it, right. And when that car broke down, that was when, I fell apart, right?
Yeah.
I fell apart, and and I remember texting you guys, I'm literally going to be homeless here, but
yeah, that was another turning point. I
I
think
freaked out. Yeah. I absolutely freaked out.
That was intervention time.
Now, a bit of context here as well is that we had a family WhatsApp group that was established on the back of Dad's diagnosis, because we had never had a family WhatsApp group up to that point.
Okay,
and we have not lived together as a family since 1994, because that context in our family also is something. Like, we emigrated in 94. You were what, 9 or 10, Bren? I was 19. You were 9, I was 19.
You were 16.
Mel? You were 16. And Brad was what,
11.
He was 11. So when we emigrated, and very, very soon, like, I moved out pretty much immediately, and then Melanie, and so we hadn't actually lived together in the same house, in the same country even, since 1994. And when Dad got his diagnosis, we did a WhatsApp family group. So this was our first time really to come back under a roof together.
All of us together.
Yeah. And, Dad died 3 weeks later, and we kept the family WhatsApp group going. And so when you announced in that WhatsApp group, you were like, my car wouldn't start, and this, if I don't get it to start, I'm going to be homeless. And I literally had a meltdown.
Yeah. I was going for a breakdown at that point.
Yeah. And it was at that point I realized I'm going to have to, in order for our relationship to survive this, I'm going to have to, exit, or one of us is going to have to exit. Like, we're not going to be able to be under this roof again together, and we're going to need boundaries. And I remember that feeling really hard, because also, again, with my shit, how do you do boundaries? I don't know how to do boundaries. I don't know how to say, okay, I'm really scared. This is freaking me out. I'm just going to, be over here and whatever. But yeah, the learning that happened, and something that I'm really proud of for all of us, is that the love we have for each other prevailed, even through all the reactivity that happened around all of us, really. Because, when somebody when your dad dies, when someone in the family dies, it brings up a lot for everybody. There is it's a cog, and not even a cog. Dad was almost like the satellite. And so many of us were revolving around him, and just the whole dynamic and the whole constellation shifts. And it's a little bit like an earthquake. Everything just kind of shifts, and we start making decisions. I have often wondered to myself, would you have made that decision if Dad was still alive? And who knows, because Dad would have, I think he would have resisted it, and he probably would have tormented you and everyone else over. I think he would have been tormented by it. He would have been very uncomfortable himself, just like we were, or I was, I'd say. But the love prevailed. And
the love
it did. And it meant sometimes, like, loving from a distance, and trusting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So my very first reaction was to try and control. It was to try and steer and guide and project my idea onto you that you were doing it the wrong way. And in the end, I realized, okay, I'm going to have to let go, trust Brendan to do his thing, and love him from a distance.
Well, that's exactly what you did. That's what you did, Mel. Brad, Mom, it was tough for Mom as well. I knew that my choice to move into my car was going to have an impact on all of you, right? And it's completely natural to have your concern, to want to step in and tell me to do something else. Had Dad had been alive, he would have offered me money or tried to pull me out of the situation financially or something like that. I knew that it wasn't just about it wasn't just about, you know, me trying to pay off debt. I was trying to change the way I handled my own shit.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
like
Well,
I,
that's
I
it,
took
because
it on.
we could have all had a whip around. We could have all had a whip around. Had you come to us and said, I owe $10,000, we
Sure.
would have all thrown in money and had you sorted. But that wasn't the point. The
Didn't want
point
Wasn't the
that.
was that
problem.
you needed, it wasn't the problem. You needed to figure this out for yourself, because had we done that, there would have been nothing learned.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like if I had have taken that old school route of save me and I can't save myself route, I wouldn't end up where I am today. I'm living in an apartment now. I went from living in a car to, I'm in this apartment. I'm financially stable. I've paid off my debt. I have my sobriety. I have my son back living in with me on the weekends. I have gotten here through the hardship. I've gotten here through the struggle, and I know that you all were struggling with me with it, like up here. I know that, and
Yeah.
I told you many times before, I got this. I got this. Just give me some time with it, right? Just give me some time with it.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of shit, even when it was dark, even with the relapses. Even though I said it was only going to be a year and it ended up to be 3 years, I was going to stay the course with this no matter what happened. Do you know what I
And
mean?
Bren, not only did you not only did you learn so much along the way, and you learn, of course, through struggling, but you gained yourself a massive audience
Mm,
along the way. And I
yeah.
can't wait to talk to you about that. Like, how did that start? What
Oh,
what gave you the idea to bring people with you?
I have a freaking amazing community of nearly 70,000 followers on YouTube, people who follow me on Instagram. And pretty much I knew that what I was going through could be useful to other people to witness it. And I wanted to document my journey living out of my car. So, I picked up the camera one day. It wasn't even a camera. I picked up my iPhone and I started filming myself on my iPhone, introduced myself to the world, explained my situation. I talked about being a recovering addict. I talked about being in serious debt. I live in my car. I'm a gig worker. I do like different delivery apps to make money. And I started sharing videos, and it took a while for it to gain traction. It really did. But eventually people started to comment on the videos and like the videos and, hey, love to see more. I started uploading more videos, sharing my story. And fast forward to here right now, we've got a channel that has a great community but has also become a strong source of income for me as well. And yeah, it was just great for me to be personable as well, to be funny and to share all the little bits of light inside the journey, to give tips for people who want to live in their car, because I learned a lot.
Yeah.
And
You
like,
helped you helped a lot of people. I used to, and I still do, read the comments that people leave, and it's just mind blowing how many lives you have positively impacted through your own journey. I mean, and ultimately, isn't that what we all want to do with our lives?
absolutely. I was showing people that you could turn this situation, into something positive. I turned my little car home into a lounge. I was
You did.
chilling in there.
You did.
It was,
I
wasn't it?
had the
Yes.
feet up. I had the lights on. I had the iPad going. I was watching Netflix. I mean, like, and another thing
Yeah.
is, sisters, not that you're nuns, but it's just that, like, I was talking to you guys all throughout this process. I was I was spending time with my son all throughout this process. I was creating those moments for us. And I hope that just by me communicating with all of you and maybe sharing my story online, I was hoping in the back of my mind that that would give you guys some peace of mind, that
Wow.
I'm still here. I'm still communicating with you all, and I'm going to be all right.
Wow.
Well,
Oh my goodness, Bren. It has the amount of healing, I think, potentially that it has brought to probably our relationship as adults.
Mm.
Because I have a friend who she calls her kids kiddles. And I thought,
Kiddle.
what kiddles, yeah. And I thought, what a great,
Mm.
phrase, because we have a tendency maybe to or an attachment, let's say, to our roles, let's say as big sisters, or
Mhm.
as we were all kids growing up together, and we haven't lived together as adults, and we, like I said before, we haven't even been in the same country. So having an adult relationship is something that all siblings have to negotiate. They have to go from being kids together to being adults together.
Yeah.
And the parents as well have to go through the process of allowing their kids to become adults. And I think that through this, this journey, and each of us have all taken our own journeys as well at around it. And then of course there was the grief of losing dad, like doing it all without dad, and all of the ways that it kind of like re-established a sense of boundaries between us, communications, trust, and a kind of an allowing everyone to have an autonomous decision in life. But one of the things, if I hope you don't mind me saying this, one of the things that really, because
Hit me.
you just moved into your apartment, right? What, a month ago?
Yeah, January 4th.
Yeah. So this whole time, because I was in your prior apartment, of course, and having known you and known where you were coming from, which was part of the reason why I was panicking. And when you were moving into your car, I was like, oh my God, because there was an element of, and again, I can relate to this, there was an element of unworthiness about your choices up to that point. It was like, what's the bare minimum? What's the that I can, give to myself? Like, well, you were living in, which I remember I lived in an almost windowless apartment. And I remember you saying it to me, Melanie. You were like, do you think maybe you're depressed because there's no daylight in your house? Remember when I was living in Clondalkin?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I used to be worried because, like where Bren lived, it was literally a basement apartment. It was
Yeah.
below ground, and that was
Yeah.
always my first concern was, that's obviously going to impact how you feel when you're not
Yeah.
getting enough daylight. Yeah.
The Bat
So
Cave. That's what it
the
was.
bat cave. Yeah. And there was an element
Yeah.
of, like, that unworthiness. But when you did your tour, so the video that you did of your last day in your car,
Yes.
I watched that video. No, I had
Mm.
not watched your videos up to that point because again, I was just keeping myself away from it because of my own bullshit interference and shit like that. I was like, oh, the less I know, the better. Just let him do his thing. Then
Understandable.
somehow this video, I don't know how, did you send it to us? I don't know how I came across this video. Maybe
I'll
Matt
tell you how
sent
you
it.
came across it right now.
Wow.
The algo gods. That video has over 1 million views on her.
Really?
Wow.
What?
That's that. I mean, no,
Yeah.
but no, honestly, I did think I sent you a link.
Or
I sent
it
you a
was
link.
ma'am. Somebody did.
I
Because it
sent
was
you a link.
Might have been
okay.
me even, or there you go, it
Yeah,
was Bren.
yeah,
Someone was like,
because
check out Bren's apartment. And I was like, what? Bren has an apartment. And so I watched the video on your last day in the car. First of all, you're so good at this. And I've always said that to you. I've always seen you as somebody who, should be on camera or have a mic or
Yeah.
a role as somebody out there, sharing a story and being a guide. And sometimes I wonder, is this kind of just like in our blood because we're all on some level
yeah,
out here documenting and sharing our journeys. Like we don't just privately do this shit. We're out here like,
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, like being on stage with it, I guess. And maybe that's
Dirty
just
laundry, anyone?
yeah.
Dirty
Seriously,
laundry, anyone?
yeah, seriously. You remember when I was a kid, I had the 8mm camcorder.
I do.
I was filming my action.
Yes.
I
I
do.
don't play with them anymore. But
Oh,
uh,
we gotta talk about your turtles.
And Robert Schock. Like
oh,
you had
Robert
an
Sh-
identity.
we were meant to create. I believe
Yes.
that all of us were meant to create. Mel, you're creative. Amanda, you're creative. Brad is creative. Mom and Dad, obviously
Yes.
creative, right?
Yeah.
And without creating, I feel like I've no purpose. And maybe you feel the same. I don't know. But
100%. And I think as well, some of this journey and some of this healing has been coming out from the shadow of a dad who had a spotlight. And
mm,
that spotlight being on him. And also, again, going back to the culture of Ireland, I have another friend who changed her surname because she was, let's just say, she was MacDade, and that's Macdade, son of Dade. Or in Irish, you might be, Nini Bren, like you are the daughter of. So, like, we are the sons of and the daughters of, and it's like,
yeah.
can I just be known on my own merit? Can I just be my own person? And so much of this, I know for me, has been about like trying to figure out how to be my own person
Mm,
and come out from the shadows of having a famous dad who the spotlight always was on, and whom we all had a role in supporting that. He was
yep.
the star, and like there was really only one star. Even though you were on the stage with him, Melanie, you did, you managed to get some of that spotlight, and you shared the
I
spotlight with him.
certainly tried. Please, tonight, tomorrow night. How about Thursday, Sunday? I'm available Tuesday.
Mel,
Yeah,
Mel, you crushed it.
yeah, and that you shared it with him, and he shared it with you. But for me, definitely, it was always in the wings,
Oh
with
yeah.
with a silent craving for some of that for me, or maybe it was I should be doing that. I still don't fully know. But as Brendan said, there is something compelling and necessary in me to create.
Mm,
And to be out here doing what we are doing now. But to get back what I
Mhm.
was saying, so I knew that some of your patterns were like me, and you're probably the addiction before even alcohol was an addiction to proving my worth,
mm,
an addiction to trying to escape the discomfort of the shame I felt for not being good enough or whatever enough or anything like that. And when you dropped that video and I went and I watched that video, first of all, it was brilliant, brilliantly edited. And then, interesting, the day in your
So
car
good.
watching you go about your business. But then when you did the apartment tour, Brendan,
mm.
Mm.
I was blown away. And that's when I knew. That's when I knew that you had made the fundamental worthiness shift
Mm.
on the
Oh,
inside, because I was like, that's a pad and a half. Not that you're living in Dallas, but I was like, the daylight, the amenities, the location, like everything that you gave yourself, like you were giving yourself not just a home, any home will do,
yeah.
but it was somewhere that felt like it just came across as like, wow, this is so different from what Brendan has been choosing for so long.
Exactly. And also, like, I lived a life of solitude, and I found someone through this process, you know? So I have an amazing partner, my girlfriend, who's just chilling in the room right there. But she kind of
Hi,
helped.
Emma.
Yeah, she's over there. Yeah, but she came into my life and related to me and allowed me to be me and to just come out and share on YouTube and stuff like that. She adapted to my life, I adapted to hers, and we found this place together. So to go from living in a car alone to finding someone and then
Oh,
building a home with someone as well, man,
Yeah.
that's a shift. That's a turnaround in the right
Yeah.
direction. You know?
Yeah.
you waited, Bren, and I remember I used to always, very delicately, I would, try and throw hints at you like, you're such a good person. Are you considering dating anytime
Oh,
soon?
that's
And
right.
you'd be
Yeah.
like, you'd be like, Mel. Because I, I,
Yep.
would- I would even try and matchmake for me. And Bren would be
Matchmaker
like,
Mel, let's go.
he'd be like, Mel, I'm not ready and I am working on myself and I will know when I'm ready. So
Mm.
how, and I don't even, I don't believe it's a coincidence that you found your home and your partner within the same space of time. You
Yeah.
were ready. You were ready. It was intentional. It was conscious. And it was as a direct result of all of the work that you did over the last 3 years. It is a phenomenal story, Bren.
Appreciate that. And like, here's the thing, right? There's a lot of people out here, right, listening to this right now, struggling with something.
Mhm.
And, nobody is immune to the trials and tribulations of life. And if you're struggling with something, right, you can reach out to somebody, you can tell your story. People out there want to hear it. People want to hear it. And I think that if you can find that connection with people, that's a step in the right direction. That's a step towards light. you know I had no idea that this journey would change me in so many freaking ways. I remember sitting in a Walmart parking lot in my car, hungover, just down on life, just out of the blue, after 20 years, just finally struck up a conversation with God, and then started asking, God to come into my life and to offer me guidance and to speak, to God on a daily basis. And that's another thing that came into my life. So there's just been a lot of transformative things that have happened. And
And Brent, that one is huge for you because for a long time you
mm,
would have considered yourself an atheist.
oh yeah,
Which,
not
and by the way, all, whether you believe or not, and whether you believe in a God or, something that's not, a God or something more spiritual, I am a huge believer in just having a faith in
yeah,
something other than ourselves.
exactly, a
And
higher power. Yeah.
a higher power. And I love that that your journey led you to this. Again, would you have thought that would be the case when you first started out?
Hell no, I wouldn't have. You know what I mean? And Mel, Amanda, I spend a lot of time talking to myself. So I figured, hey, why not just start talking to God?
Fair
He
enough.
might just answer you. You know, he
Oh, that's
Mm,
great. I
you know,
love that.
he might offer you some guidance. Like
mm,
life is too crazy, and there's too much darkness, like to
Mm,
just do it alone. You know what I mean? Like I like faith now has to be something that I'm thinking about daily, because it
mm.
offered so much than being just 20 years of thinking about darkness.
mm.
But yeah.
So someone said to me in well, actually it's more what I have heard in the rooms is that recovery is about learning to love and be loved. And
Mhm.
this shift from self-reliance, like really stubborn, staunch self-reliance, to letting something, anything in, any bit of light in, like allowing myself to be assisted, allowing myself to be loved, allowing myself to be witnessed, allowing myself to be helped, allowing myself to, to have um an whether it is an entity or a concept of the world as being, as given a shit about me, you
Mhm.
know that is such an important part of recovery. And it really is where things start to shift. When you stop realizing or stop thinking that it's up to you to hold the tide back, as if there are no other forces at play here, as if, you know, um, one of the exercises that I did most recently is because I found out through working the steps that I am, you know, firmly agnostic, if not maybe atheist. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I do know that I am, and only in the sense that I reject the religious
Mm,
concept
Yeah.
of God, resembling something like Gandalf. That's kind of what I got the impression of, that God was this wizard in the sky who's like Santi, basically, kept a list
Yeah.
and things like that. But anyway, there was two questions, and I have it here. There was two questions that I came across in the program, and what do I need from a higher power or whatever it is? And
Yeah.
I allowed myself to, basically what it is, like, if I'm going to put my trust in something,
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
I'm going to allow something to direct me and offer me guidance,
Yeah.
right? What does that something need to be? What qualities do they need to have? And I was like, well, they need to be kind,
Hmm.
accepting, compassionate. They need to be wise, strong, comforting, have clarity, all of these things. And then the next part was, well, what would I like such an entity to be and do in my life? So
Yes.
if I am to, or if you think about the Godfather movies, you know, the Don always has the consigliere who is their counsel. It's their
Yeah.
advisor. And so if I am to have an advisor, they need to, there is a CV, there is an interview process, like there is a job description. And if you get that job, what I would like you to do is to speak to me with compassion and empathy and care, like speak truth to me. But other things like offer me guidance and direction, hold a greater vision for me. And another one here was put people and invitations in my path, right? So when I was releasing my sense that it was all up to me to make all these things happen, it allowed me to kind of like take a little bit more of a back seat and to trust that if I do my shit, if
Mm,
I do my part of the deal, well, then the universe or whatever it is will put people in my path.
yeah.
It,
You have to put in the work.
yes, but I also don't have to manage the universe to the degree that all meetings will be the ones that I want. I will trust that, and also clarifying that literally the universe's job is to put people and opportunities in my path. When it does, that I recognize it and go, ah, there we go. There is my, you know, Jiminy Cricket at,
Hmm.
at work, you know. So anyway, that I think that really is a turning point for anybody on recover in some kind of a recovery journey, is getting to a point where the change of heart, where you soften your heart enough to let something else, something that isn't you,
Yeah. Take
in to have a say. Yeah.
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 I also realized it wasn't working with just me. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It wasn't
Yeah.
working with just me. So I mean, like it's like something had to shift. I had to let something in to guide me. You know, because my guidance, even though I've made like leaps and bounds, and look, I still struggle with this. You know, I'm still stubborn. I'm still who I am. But like,
Yeah.
it's just
Still
taking.
human.
Yeah, I'm still human, but I'm taking a step towards God. You know what I mean? Or taking a
Yeah.
step towards letting someone else in. You know, and it's yeah.
Mm.
I'm not a religious person myself necessarily either. Definitely more spiritual, right?
Mm.
But you know, just taking those little steps forward.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's all we can do here.
Yeah. And it's the kind of like the classic analogy of like you can't expect to win the lotto if you don't buy a ticket.
Hmm.
Yeah. As God says, meet me halfway.
Yeah.
Bren, tell us a little bit about how it feels to wake up in your gorgeous apartment after years of waking up in a car.
So it feel at first, like the first month, very surreal. It took me some getting used to. I was kind of just wandering around. I mean, 3 years in a car is a long time. You know, you become adapted to that. But I guess it just feels great, you know, because what living in a car has done for me is it allowed me to appreciate things that I took for granted, you know, like small things, cooking some bacon and eggs in the kitchen, like having a stove, going to the bathroom in private, all right, and not
Oh,
having someone wrestling a turd out next to me. You know what I mean? You know, listen.
oh God, there's a story there that I never want to hear.
We don't need to go there. But anyways,
Ugh.
just having the bed and having my son back and having a partner to share my life with, and having a place to store my awesome action figure collection, you know what I mean? And I can go out and work all day and come home, and it's a great
Yeah.
experience. It really kind of heightened it for me, you know what I mean? So I'm really soaking
Yeah.
it in. I'm enjoying it, and I'm grateful for it, you know?
Yes.
A lot more than I used to be. You know, I used to walk into the apartment and just throw my shit on the ground, boom, and just whatever. Now
Yes.
when I come in, I'm mindful with it, man. I'm putting that jacket up
Different
like
perspective.
this.
Yeah. Oh,
You know what I
wow.
mean?
And
Well,
you
not
know
that
what?
bad. Not
I,
that bad.
I think there's also 4 people that you have yet to thank that have really helped you along your way.
Yes.
Michelangelo,
Yeah.
Leonardo, Donatello, and Raphael.
Very good, Mel.
Oh, well, come on now. I mean,
Yeah.
I was literally bombarded by them. So will you give us a little bit of a show there with these lads?
All right. So, anyways, these guys come with me just about everywhere, through the darkness, through the light. My ninja quartet has always been there. But do you know what?
Can,
On a serious
can you give us a little show before you go serious again?
All right. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Um, but like, here's the thing, right? Through it all, if you're going through some shit, right? It's holding on to your joys, your hobbies
Mm.
are a great way to just keep pressing forward in the right direction. Because even though I moved into my car, I kept up with my hobbies.
You did.
I like to put them. I like to put them in certain situations and take pictures of the turtles. You guys know that, right? And
Yeah.
it really brings joy into my life, and I include them in my YouTube videos,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
so definitely, if you have something that brings you some joy, like a hobby or something, keep
Mm.
engaging in that, because that's going to help to bring you
Mm.
forward.
It's so
You know,
true. It's
yeah,
you're staying connected to that essence really of who you are.
Yeah.
The
that.
same is true for me in my art, like
Yes.
no matter how, stuck I got, um, my art, I always had that outlet. Always. I could just
Mhm.
turn to it and, tell it shit.
And it only needs to make sense to you, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of people can't really make sense of being 40 and still playing with Ninja Turtles, but I sure as hell can.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you not. And I love that on a lot of your deliveries, you often left a figure with the delivery. I can't imagine opening my door and seeing a Ninja Turtle. I mean, I would definitely have some questions, but
Well,
yeah, I just think that's what, you stand out from the rest because of who you are and what you do. Look, what's that?
Brendan sent me them. You sent
Ah,
me these little action
oh
figures.
yeah, Mandy, you put them in that little cubicle. That's
I
freaking
did.
awesome.
I did. Yeah, they stand up there. So that's
oh,
is that Raphael? You sent
Oh,
me that.
Amanda, no.
Amanda.
What?
You
It's
know who that
Leo.
is.
It's Leo.
That's all good. We're gonna let
Oh,
that
Okay.
slide.
oh, sorry. I thought of it. Anyway, that's yeah, Leonardo. But you sent me that after
Glad you
Dad
still
died.
have that. Yeah.
Yeah, you sent me after Dad died, and you said, that Leo was a leader,
Leader.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that you saw that in me. And I think that's something lovely between us always as well, is that we've always held a vision for each other. I think, we've always seen each other in the best light, which is probably why it was so painful or is so
Yeah.
painful for any of us when any of us are struggling,
Mm.
because we always hold the candle for each other. We always see each other in terms of our potential.
Mm.
And for some reason realizing that potential has been hard, maybe because it had to be done on our own merit.
Yes.
Maybe because it was something that, I just couldn't live with it, with anybody thinking it was just like passed off onto me or handed to me. It wasn't like I worked for this. I earned, like, it's mine. It belongs to me, It's something I've built from the inside. And I know that in John O'Donoghue is a late poet and philosopher that I love, and he was also a holy man as such, and he's the author of Anam Cara, and also the beautiful book. Here it's called Benedictus. In America, it's called To Bless the Space Between Us, and it's a beautiful book, and it's a book of poems/prayers for all different kind of seasons of a lifetime. But he talks about the idea of blessing and what it means to bless somebody. And I thought it was just the most beautiful things. We think that blessings are things that only priests can give,
Mm.
or nanas with the holy water, throwing the holy water at you going out the door. But
There you
actually,
go.
yeah. But what a blessing actually is to hold a vision of a person as a complete and whole person in standing in the light of their potential.
Mm.
And so I think that we've just had that for each other. We've always blessed each other with the highest vision that we have. Well, like, I know your potential. Like, I've always believed in your potential, and yours, Mel, and Brad's, all of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe then that's why it's hard when, when any of us are struggling with it ourselves, struggling to believe in it ourselves. So I am just really proud of you, Bren. I'm inspired by you.
Same.
What you have achieved in terms of, and I don't mean achieved it in terms of like, the in a superficial way, but like what you have learned and what you have cultivated within yourself and what you have overcome. Like, I could not be happier for you. I am so proud of you. You inspire me, and I'm just so happy. I'm proud of us, even as
I'm
well.
proud of you too, as well. Very much so, to see you guys doing what you're doing here. You've always been there, even if it was in the background, right? And
Yeah.
Mel, your door was always open, and I love coming in. And by the way, that coddle will happen soon. But
You just tell me the date. And while we're talking about this, and obviously none of us would ever forget, but I do want to give a huge shout out to our mammy,
yeah,
our
Yes, of
mam,
course.
Ilo,
Yes.
who I think part of my reaction initially when you were doing this was a concern for her reaction
yes,
and
of
what
course.
she would go through. And there were times when she would calm me down
Mm.
and remind me
Mhm.
that he knows what he's doing. I've spoken to him. I'm his mother, and I know that he's okay. So therefore, you get to be okay
Mm,
too. So
mm.
huge shout out to our mammy. And before we sign off, and if anyone has last minute things to say, I just came in my brain came up with a little thing that I'd love to do, and we'll see if it works. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, well, sure, Amanda can edit it out. Would you be interested in trying something?
I
Sure.
definitely would.
Okay.
I just wanted to add on to what you were saying about mom
Yeah.
real quick before we do that, Mel,
Yeah.
because telling mom was, besides my son and then you guys, telling mom was one of the most difficult parts, and I told her in person, and we had our time together, and she, you know, went through the emotions of it, and I allowed that to happen. But in the long run, just always there for me, and there for me in one of the most darkest times, that I had to turn to her. And that was when I didn't tell you guys or anything, but like, she was there. What the point I'm trying to say is that mom was there at this one particular point during that journey for me, and I greatly appreciate her for that, and always
Yeah.
will. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought it up.
She's the best mammy. So does everyone know how to rename their name on Zoom?
Oh,
So if you
yes.
go, so you just do the three dots. Do
Yeah.
you see that, Bren? And then you click rename.
Yeah.
Okay.
You let us know when you're ready there, Bren, too.
Okay, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
So I just thought it would be kind of cool after, this whole conversation that we've had, if there is a word that comes to your mind, we'll have a little think about it. If there's a word that comes to your mind, post recording this episode, what is the one word that you would type in here? And when you do, don't click rename yet, right? We're just going to take a little bit of time and type in a word, and we'll all hit rename and just see what we came up with. And I think it would be kind of nice way to end
Is
the
it pertaining
episode.
to the feelings I had before coming on this podcast?
No, how you feel like just now. What
Oh,
comes up for you now? A word that comes up for you now, because I don't know about you guys, but I would have a very different word before than after. So it's what you're feeling now.
Okay, I
okay.
have my words.
At this time.
I have my word. Bren, take your time.
Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, we ready? 1, 2,
2,
3.
3.
I love that. So just in case it doesn't come up, and obviously we will say what the words are for the people who are listening. So my word was
That's
peace.
right. Yeah.
Amanda, your word was
Say your word again.
My word was peace.
My word is grateful.
And my word was starving. I need some bacon and eggs.
Fair enough.
Oh, well, I think then we shall release you to the kitchen.
But gratitude and peace are definitely close runner-ups.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, this was amazing. And thanks so much for being here. Thank you, universe, for for all the ways that, you've played out to have us here. Like, thank God to be here, especially when you do walk this like dark night of the soul. When anybody who's on a journey, there's a great saying, like, when you find yourself walking through hell, keep walking.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is the thing, like, just keep going and find,
Yes.
trust in in whatever you can, whatever you need to hold on to. Let yourself be loved, even if that love is coming from a distance. And yeah, keep walking, and hopefully we can offer you some companionship along the way.
This was great.
Thanks to Dad as well, guys, because he is guiding us. He's guiding us. He's holding us, and I appreciate always feeling that he's there with us too.
I'm glad you said that, Mel. I feel the same way.
Look at him.
He's even here, and that's his big toe in there.
My guy's
Yeah, I was
back
going to
there.
say that's the lightest he's ever
The
weighed.
one that wasn't amputated. That's the one that's in there.
Yeah, my dad is right in the kitchen, right next to the salt and pepper.
He's everywhere.
Is he in Mr. Murphy's back garden?
He doesn't have a back garden.
Okay, on that note, I love you guys. Brad, we love you. Ma'am, we love you. Dad, we love you. And
thanks for listening.
All right, go have some bacon and eggs.
And Brad is going to play us out. Good luck.
All right, sisters. Bye.